Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 212 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where Theoden encounters beings out of the shadows of legends.
You know, I really wish this was episode 2112. Can I just say that at the top? Because I don't know when we're going to get to episode 2112.
Sorry, I don't think
40
I'm going
years
to be
from
living
now?
long enough for us to get to 2112.
Right. So now let me just do my Bill and Ted,
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop.
All right, there we go. I like that.
Sorry, folks. Anyway,
No, you're not.
I really am not. I really am not. But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who would also be freaked out by eyes looking out from the boughs of trees.
Yeah,
Who wouldn't? Alan Sisto.
that's right. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, Sean. Apparently, Legolas is the only one who's attracted to them. Everybody else wants to run away. Folks, today we're going to be talking about the second part of the Road to Isengard. Now, that's Chapter 8 in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is where Theoden, Gandalf, and the rest make their way across the fords of Isen on their way to have a little chat with Saruman.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And as is probably obvious, we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
We are, and we hope you'll be glad you joined as well.
But before we get back to the text, it's time for one of our favorite intro segments. One we've been using a lot here in Book 3, and that's Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth. Alan, you want to get us started?
Mm-hmm. Well, today in the story is March 4th, and as Theoden and company head from Helm's Deep to Isengard, Frodo and Sam are headed from the Dead Marshes to the Morannon. Now, here's a preview from Book 4 of their experiences on this day. At last, on the 5th morning since they took the road with Gollum, they halted once more. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now at the nearest scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked round in horror. Dreadful as the Dead Marshes had been, and the arid moors of the No-Man lands, more loathsome far was the country that the crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mere of dead faces, some haggard phantom of green spring would come. But here neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that feed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and gray, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crushed and powdered rock, great cones of earth fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labor of its slaves that should endure when all their purposes were made void, a land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea should enter in and wash it with oblivion. "I feel sick," said Sam. Frodo did not speak.
That is the worst Airbnb review I've ever read, and it's absolutely spot on.
Yelp, number 317 out of 317. And
-3 stars.
wow, that is pretty terrible.
It is awful.
I thought my backyard was bad. I mean, this is really, really, really bad.
I mean, man, obscene graveyard. Oh, vomited the filth of their entrails. I mean, you know, it's horrific, but man, Tolkien has a way with words.
Doesn't he? I mean, not even leprous growths grow here.
Right, not even leprous growths grow here.
Leprous growths are like, I'm out of here, man.
I mean, if leprous growth grew here, I would have given it maybe 2 stars. But
right. At least there's something.
We didn't even have that.
Oh,
well,
it's terrible.
As
Airbnb.
As charming as this eternally vacant location is, they were actually in serious danger from their traveling companion, Gollum.
Yeah.
Now, as the king and his men set up camp tonight, that's going to be the same time that Sam is waking up and overhearing a conversation that Smeagol was having with himself. So I'm going to pick this up after Smeagol/Gollum have decided that they need to take the ring from Frodo.
All right. I'm excited to hear your Gollum voice again.
It's always fun to do. I do have fun doing Gollum.
But he'll see. He'll know. He'll take it from us. He sees. He knows. He heard us make silly promises against his orders, yes. Must take it. The wraiths are searching. Must take it. Not for him. No, sweet one. See, my precious, if we has it, then we can escape even from him, eh? Perhaps we grows very strong, stronger than wraiths. Lord Smeagol, Gollum the Great, the Gollum. Eat fish every day, 3 times a day, fresh from the sea. Most precious Gollum. Must have it. We wants it. We wants it. We wants it. But there's 2 of them. They'll wake too quick and kill us.
whined Smeagol in a last effort.
Not now. Not yet. We wants it. But...
And here there was a long pause, as if a new thought had wakened.
Not yet, eh? Perhaps not. She might help. She might, yes.
Yeah! Well, first of all, I haven't heard your Gollum in a long time. Woohoo! Well done, sir.
Oh,
that
thank
is so
you.
much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, she might help. She might, yes. That's mildly troubling to say the least.
Especially when you know who she is.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you have no clue at this point, so it's pretty scary
Right.
as it stands. But boy, knowing who she is, terrifying. So,
Yeah.
Well, you all know the rest of that line, but there's another thing to update you on, and it's what's been happening with Merry and Pippin. Now, we'll find this out in a few weeks when we get to the next chapter, but let's bring you up to speed. Pippin fills in Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, telling them, "It must have been about midnight when the Ents broke the dams and poured all the gathered waters through a gap in the northern wall down into Isengard. The Huorn dark had passed, and the thunder had rolled away. The moon was sinking behind the western mountains. Isengard began to fill up with black creeping streams and pools. They glittered in the last light of the moon as they spread over the plain. Every now and then the waters found their way down into some shaft or spout hole. Great white steams hissed up. Smoke rose in billows. There were explosions and gusts of fire. One great coil of vapor went whirling up, twisting round and round Orthanc until it looked like a tall peak of cloud, fiery underneath and moonlit above. And still more water poured in, until at last Isengard looked like a huge flat saucepan, all steaming and bubbling. We saw a cloud of smoke and steam from the south last night, when we came to the mouth of Nan Curanir, said Aragorn. We feared that Saruman was brewing some new devilry for us. Not he, said Pippin. He was probably choking and not laughing any more. By the morning, yesterday morning, the water had sunk down into all the holes, and there was a dense fog.
Love that. And I love the bit about Saruman's not laughing anymore. It's great.
No, he is not.
Not at all. And we will see why very soon.
Uh-huh. Yeah, soon enough.
Well then, after a narrow escape, Merry and Pippin watched the drowning of Isengard, while Theoden, Gandalf, and the rest were making their way to Isengard, and while Frodo and Sam were approaching the Morannon.
That's right. And that's it for this week's Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth.
Which means that it's time to get back to what's happening in this part of Middle-earth as we pick back up in the text with the company leaving the Deeping Combe. Alan, you've got first reading.
I do indeed. All right, we'll pick up exactly where we left off last time. At last the company passed through the trees and found that they had come to the bottom of the Combe, where the road from Helm's Deep branched, going one way east to Edoras, and the other north to the fords of Isen. As they rode from under the eaves of the wood, Legolas halted and looked back with regret. Then he gave a sudden cry. "There are eyes," he said, "eyes looking out from the shadows of the boughs. I never saw such eyes before." The others, surprised by his cry, halted and turned, but Legolas started to ride back. "No, no," cried Gimli. "Do as you please in your madness, but let me first get down from this horse. I wish to see no eyes." "Stay, Legolas Greenleaf," said Gandalf. "Do not go back into the wood. Not yet. Now is not your time." Even as he spoke, there came forward out of the trees 3 strange shapes. As tall as trolls they were, 12 feet or more in height. Their strong bodies, stout as young trees, seemed to be clad with raiment, or with hide of close-fitting gray and brown. Their limbs were long, and their hands had many fingers. Their hair was stiff, and their beards gray-green as moss. They gazed out with solemn eyes, but they were not looking at the riders. Their eyes were bent northwards. Suddenly they lifted their long hands to their mouths and sent forth ringing calls, clear as notes of a horn, but more musical and various. The calls were answered, and turning again, the riders saw other creatures of the same kind approaching, striding through the grass. They came swiftly from the north, walking like wading herons in their gait, but not in their speed, for their legs in their long paces beat quicker than the heron's wings. The riders cried aloud in wonder, and some set their hands upon their sword hilts, which frankly seems like pulling your sword against an avalanche, but okay.
If it makes you feel better, I guess.
Yeah.
Guess you'd rather have your hand on a weapon than not. But,
yeah, that's true.
But it's not going to be terribly effective.
No, it won't. Well, let's go back to the beginning of that, though.
Indeed, let's. So the company go through the trees, and pretty much as soon as they get through, they find they're already at this junction in the road, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's when Legolas looks back, which is just always a bad idea. Haven't you ever seen a horror movie, Legolas? You should never look behind you.
Never look back.
No.
Because you see weird stuff like this, man. You see eyes like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And then this is incredibly creepy. Legolas he's like enchanted by this. He starts to ride back.
Yeah.
Which is very, very disturbing to Gimli. And I have to say, I understand why. And very strong language here. Do as you please in your madness.
Yeah.
This is not right. You should not be going back.
No, Gimli, this is not a game like, I don't really want to. I'm not comfortable with this. This is, look, if you want to go off the deep end, that's your right, but get me down off this horse.
Yeah, because this is dangerous. This is dangerous. Madness. I mean, that is just
red flags popping up all over the place for Gimli and for anybody else who's seeing these eyes. And even Gandalf, who knows full well who these are. He knows that they don't represent an immediate danger, but he also knows that you shouldn't get back into the trees. It's not his time. He commands him to stop. He, with very clear authority, commands him to stop and says, now is not your time.
That's a very interesting turn of phrase.
It is. I want to hang out there for a little bit and see if we can figure out what that's talking about.
I mean, the first thing you think is, does it mean it's not his time to see the trees? Gandalf having some foreknowledge, perhaps, and knowing that Legolas is going to get his chance to see the trees up close, which he wants to do.
Could be. I mean, he heard the conversation between Gimli and Legolas, perhaps, about the glittering caves of Aglarond, and Legolas expressing the desire to go back into Fangorn.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so he's just saying, hey, you'll get your chance to see these trees, but this is not your time.
No.
It could be as simple as that, but it could also be something a lot more ominous.
Oh, yeah.
I could be stretching here, but, just your time sounds like your time to die to me.
My goodness, it sure does.
And I wonder if Gandalf is speaking to the fact that there's actually real danger here if he goes back.
That if you go back,
woods.
you might be squished. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not your time. We're in a hurry. We'll go back. You'll get to see this place later. This is not your time. And if you go in there, something bad is going to happen to you.
Indeed. I kind of see this also maybe as Legolas's sort of fairy place, the place you mentioned the word enchanted. This is the way he's enchanted like Gimli was when it comes to Aglarond. So maybe Gandalf's warning Legolas, it's just not your time to get lost in that enchantment, to get lost in fairy.
Yeah, it's definitely a place of enchantment for him. It's almost like a siren call that seems to be calling to
that's
Legolas.
A good comparison, yeah.
It's very much like that scene from the Odyssey where it's like you know you shouldn't listen to this, but you're just compelled.
You can't help but listen, right?
Yeah.
Temptation is great.
But also, you mentioned Gandalf's authority, and I can't help but notice that the absolute authority with which Gandalf speaks, do not go back into the wood. Not yet.
Yeah.
And Legolas listens.
Yes, he does.
Now, that speaks so much to the position that Gandalf has in this company, which isn't a surprise to us, of course. But again, we don't see him do this a lot. We don't see him like lay down the law like this. You are not going.
No, you're right. He doesn't usually take over and exert his authority in some, authoritarian way.
Right. And that's what makes me think there might be something more ominous here than just, hey, don't go take a break to see the trees right now. We're in a hurry,
Yeah, you're right. This isn't just we're out of time and don't have the opportunity right now. This is more like there is a serious danger here. And maybe not just to Legolas. I mean, obviously to Gimli because he's on the same horse.
Because he's on the same horse. But yeah, maybe if they stop.
Yeah. They're not paying attention to us and we don't want to.
That's right.
We don't want them to, I should say.
Yeah.
They are, as we'll find out later, herdsmen. Well, that means there's a herd of something here. And we know what that herd did to the orcs.
That's right.
So,
and the orcs sure know what that herd
well,
did
not
to
anymore.
At least the ones that are left, which is none of them.
Which are none.
So, All right. Well, after that, then we see
Yes.
in the narrative what they are, and what we now know are Ents.
Oh, yeah. The description is very much the same as we saw earlier. 12 plus feet in height. That's 4 meters. Long limbs, many-fingered hands, the stiff hair, mossy beards, and of course, the solemn eyes.
That's right. And I want to go back to episode 193, which was the first of our 5 episodes on the Treebeard chapter.
Yeah.
And I want to compare this to what Merry and Pippin saw in that chapter. They found that they were looking at a most extraordinary face. It belonged to a large, man-like, almost troll-like figure, at least 14 foot high, very sturdy, with a tall head and hardly any neck. Whether it was clad in stuff like green and gray bark, or whether that was its hide, was difficult to say. At any rate, the arms, at a short distance from the trunk, were not wrinkled, but covered with a brown, smooth skin. The large feet had 7 toes each. The lower part of the long face was covered with a sweeping gray beard, bushy, almost twiggy at the roots, thin and mossy at the ends. But at the moment the hobbits noted little but the eyes. These deep eyes were now surveying them, slow and solemn, but very penetrating. They were brown, shot with a green light. So clearly these are the same creatures.
Yeah, definitely. Now, they're not paying attention to the king's company. They're looking off to the north and calling, another description that we see from the Treebeard chapter, just like Treebeard did before the Entmoot,
Right.
raising his hands to his mouth and calling out.
That's right. And then those calls are answered, and we see more Ents coming swiftly from the north. And I have to say, this bit about how fast they're coming is really interesting.
That is, isn't it? They really can move quickly.
They really can. Walking like wading herons, but paces beating quicker than the heron's wings.
That's saying something.
I don't know exactly what the wing beat velocity of an unladen heron is, but I imagine it's pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it's certainly faster than you and I walk.
Right, exactly.
That's, a given.
I can't imagine my stride going faster than bird wings flap.
No. But, granted, these are no hummingbird wings. They're not
true. That's true. It's not something like
some sped up movie. These are very large birds. So interesting. But of course, it scares the riders enough to, as I mentioned earlier, pull their swords, even though that kind of seems rather moot.
the illusion of self-defense.
Right. Exactly. I'll have this pointy thing in my hand when you run me over.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
See how well that works for you.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to have you pick up exactly where I left off. Sadly, we'll have to do that a few times tonight. There's just so many passages that need to be read, but we will try to make sure we don't read everything.
Yeah, and I'll pick up here and we'll find that their fear and their weapons, more importantly, are not really necessary.
That's true.
You need no weapons, said Gandalf. These are but herdsmen. They are not enemies. Indeed, they are not concerned with us at all. So it seemed to be, for as he spoke, the tall creatures, without a glance at the riders, strode into the wood and vanished. Herdsmen, said Theoden, where are their flocks? What are they, Gandalf? For it is plain that to you, at any rate, they are not strange. They are the shepherds of the trees, answered Gandalf. Is it so long since you listened to tales by the fireside? There are children in your land who, out of the twisted threads of story, could pick the answer to your question. You have seen Ents, O king, Ents out of Fangorn Forest, which in your tongue you call the Entwood. Did you think that the name was given only in idle fancy? Nay, Theoden, it is otherwise. To them you are but the passing tale. All the years from Eorl the Young to Theoden the Old are of little count to them, and all the deeds of your house but a small matter. The king was silent. Ents, he said at length. Out of the shadows of legend I begin a little to understand the marvel of the trees, I think. I have lived to see strange days. Long we have tended our beasts in our fields, built our houses, wrought our tools, or ridden away to help in the wars of Minas Tirith, and that we called the life of men, the way of the world. We cared little for what lay beyond the borders of our land. Songs we have that tell of these things, but we are forgetting them, teaching them only to children as a careless custom. And now, the songs have come down among us out of strange places, and walk visible under the sun.
I absolutely love that passage.
Yeah.
So let's start back, though, at the beginning. Gandalf gently tells them who they are. These are herdsmen, and they're not only not our enemies, they frankly don't care. They're not
Yeah,
concerned
we're not
about
even,
us
we're
at
like
all.
ants to them. They're
Right.
not even paying attention to us. Yeah.
No, not even close.
And sure enough, we see that. They walk right on by and into the wood.
Yeah.
And Theoden is still a little confused. Herdsmen, where are their flocks?
Yeah, he's looking for some sheep or some cattle or
Sure.
something, I suppose, right?
Goats?
And of course, he also asks Gandalf, look, not only where are their flocks, but you know something about these creatures.
Right.
They're not strange to you, so I need you to tell us more. And Gandalf actually, for once, agrees and says,
He actually
I'll tell
gives
you.
some information. Yeah.
Yeah, helpful Gandalf arrives, and he says, these are Ents. And frankly, King, kids could have figured this out from your stories.
I love that so much because it reminds me of On Fairy stories and the idea that these stories that we now teach to children were not always for children.
That's right.
There's truth in these stories, and that's exactly what's going on here. And by the way, Tom Shippey points to this passage in Road to Middle-earth when he's speaking of interlace. I just love Shippey's observation here, so I'm bringing it in here. I don't think it tells us anything about interlace in this section specifically, but it's a really fascinating bit that he pulls up here. Shippey says that Tolkien knew that the Icelandic word for short story is thatr, a thread. Sagas often consist of several thatir, strands woven together. The image is in Gandalf's mind when he says to Theoden, there are children in your land who, out of the twisted threads of story, could pick the answer to your question.
Yeah.
And back to Shippey, to unravel entrelacement, interlacement, that is at least one route to wisdom.
Shippey had to go and get fancy and use French.
He had to use the
there,
French
so-
word for interlacing instead of...
Because he couldn't just use Icelandic in that paragraph. He also had to use French.
He had to use 2 Icelandic words and 1 French word, and I had to pull it out and say, I'm going to read this aloud. But no, it's a cool catch and interesting to see this idea of threads of story that Gandalf brings up here.
That is great. The Icelandic word for short story is a thread.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Gandalf says out of the twisted threads of story,
It's like the little stories that are woven together to make a saga. And that's kind of what we see here. The Ents are one little story that's part of this saga of Lord of the Rings.
Indeed they are. And he explains to the king, look, you might have thought they were just an old tale, but they are quite real.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very, very old. They are far older than your little half millennia kingdom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. All the deeds of your house are just like a blink in the eye.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Theoden's response is, he's silent at first.
Yeah.
As you would be.
As one does.
Yeah. And then this understanding dawns on them. And he
Yeah.
realizes, just how marvelous these trees are and just the strange days that he's living in. It's a beautiful moment when he suddenly has this epiphany, isn't it?
It is. I think it is. He realizes, look, long we have tended our beasts and we called the life of men the way of the world. And man, we've lived our lives oblivious to things outside our land. And our songs talk about this kind of thing, but we just teach them to kids like they're fictional, like they're fairy tales, as, we might say.
Yeah.
But they're real.
Yeah, they're real. And I love that observation that what we called the life of men is nothing. It's
nothing.
We thought that was everything. And it's very little compared to all that's out there.
It's a blink in the eye. It means so little in terms of the period of time that's gone by.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I love what that says about our primary world. This notion that, and I think Tolkien, especially in On Fairy Stories, tries to show this, that these stories that have come down through the years that we now have as children's stories that didn't used to be just children's stories, there are grains of truth in those stories. There are, in these legends, there are bits of truth and reality that, well, it's like he talks about in Mythopoeia, criticizing C.S. Lewis's, the lies breathed through silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he points out the inherent truthfulness of at least portions of these myths. This is fantastic.
Yeah. We call them myths. I think they have no value. And yet
they call them a myth.
I walked right into that one.
You did.
But yeah, things come down out of strange places and remind us that there is truth to these.
Indeed. And do you know what else has come down among us out of strange places, visible under the sun?
What?
Our website, theprancingponypodcast.com. How is that?
Yes, indeed. Strange places it has come from. And we still have all the good stuff there. We've got our show notes and our outtakes, our Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
That's right. We may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've ever mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, and we thank you for your support. Now, we are always thrilled to bring artists to your attention, like we mentioned last week, and Elmanel is no exception, as we are really, really proud supporters of her on Patreon. Now, like I said, we mentioned her last week, but we want to make sure you don't miss out, so we're talking about her again.
Absolutely. You're going to want to check out her ongoing project, Parma Eldalieva. It's giving the world its first books in calligraphic Tengwar. For 12 years, she's been creating stunning works of art, books, maps, scrolls, and more that feature her originally developed Elven calligraphy.
Now, her artworks are a series of artistic Elven transliterations inspired by and dedicated to J.R.R. Tolkien's works. And they're done the Elven way, by hand and skill. Incredible skill.
Absolutely,
she spent thousands of hours perfecting the scripts and her talents and making these amazing art manuscripts.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 years ago, she released her first completed Parma Eldalieva art book in a printed version. It's an art transliteration of The Hobbit, red leather cover and everything, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And 2 years ago, she released a second book, Parma Eldalieva Special 1, dedicated to the Akalabaith, with a description of Numenor and the line of its kings.
And now the exciting news, this summer she's releasing a new book, Parma Eldalieva Special 2. And this one's dedicated to the Third Age, the Rings, Isildur's death, and the Tale of Years. Now, her Patreon supporters can get it as a reward with some exciting extras, but until the end of June, you can also pre-order it at her web store, store.elmanel.com, at a special price. You can get a 10% discount if you type the code PPP when you make your pre-order.
So remember, store.elmenel.com. And don't forget to enter your discount code, PPP.
Well, now I think it's time to go ahead and get back to the text, and I've got the next reading, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up. It's a short one, but as you'll see, there's a lot to unpack, as we often say.
There's a lot to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, there really is. All right. "You should be glad, Theoden King," said Gandalf, "for not only the little life of men is now endangered, but the life also of those things which you have deemed the matter of legend. You are not without allies, even if you know them not." "Yet also I should be sad," said Theoden, "for however the fortune of war shall go, may it not so end that much that was fair and wonderful shall pass forever out of Middle-earth." "It may," said Gandalf. "The evil of Sauron cannot be wholly cured, nor made as if it had not been. But to such days we are doomed. Let us now go on with the journey we have begun."
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it really made sense to pull this section out separately because
I think
there's a lot there that's worth taking some time to discuss.
So Gandalf starts by pointing out that the lives of these legendary creatures are threatened by the same foe that threatens you, so you have allies, even if you didn't know it.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You know, it's the old concept of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? If they're threatened by Saruman the same way you're threatened by Saruman, then theoretically they're your allies.
Right.
Not necessarily immediately, though.
No.
and that's something to keep in mind. But if you play your cards right, generally speaking, you should be able to get them on your side. And that's basically what's going to happen.
That is indeed. I was thinking also, what must it take to threaten not only the little life of men, but these living legends that have been around for millennia? I mean, the power that we're talking about here, that we're trying to stand up against, this is immense. This is, I think, another reminder that for the Ents to get involved, it had to be a really significant foe.
Yeah. These are like world-changing events. That's
a good way to put it.
These are major threats. That makes sense. We're dealing with fallen Maiar here.
Yeah.
Not one, but two of them.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Buy one fallen Maya, get another one free.
That's right.
Yeah.
The second one's never as valuable as the first one, though.
No, it has to be of lesser or equal value.
Or lesser value, and Saruman is definitely a lesser value Sauron.
I think so.
He doesn't see it that way, of course.
No, he doesn't.
But yeah, you're right. This is a very significant threat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love Theoden's foresight in
Yeah.
the next paragraph. He makes this lovely elegiac observation is the word I
Ooh.
want to use. I know it's kind of a weird word, but it means, relating to an elegy, like Anglo-Saxon poetry, something mournful or sorrowful.
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of poetry that's typified by that ubi sunt concept. Where are they? And that's basically what Theoden's saying here. Regardless of the outcome here, won't much that is good be gone forever?
Yeah.
And he's basically mourning for things that aren't gone yet, but soon will be.
Yeah, sort of a perspective nostalgia.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, I heard a talk on that at Oxenboot 2018, I think. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, man. Sorry I missed that.
It was really
That's
interesting. Yeah.
Very cool concept.
You should have been there, man. It was great.
I know. I should have. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a Rohirric sort of observation to make. And
yes, it is.
What we're seeing here is Theoden anticipating that something is going to be gone. And probably shouldn't be surprised if in a couple of generations we have Rohirric poets writing elegiac songs about Ents and elves,
Yeah.
Where quam Ent, where quam elf,
Oh. Or where quam Entwife.
Right. They could do that one now.
They could. I mean, that's the answer singing that. But
yeah.
Of course, he's right. And we see hints of this at more moments in the text. I can't help but recalling this from Galadriel last season in the Mirror of Galadriel. Do you not see now wherefore your coming is to us as the footstep of doom? For if you fail, then we are laid bare to the enemy. Yet if you succeed, then our power is diminished, and Lothlorien will fade, and the tides of time will sweep it away. We must depart into the west, or dwindle to a rustic folk of dell and cave, slowly to forget and to be forgotten. This is the long defeat that Galadriel speaks of.
That's right, it is. And it's also one of the fruitless victories that Elrond mentioned at the council.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tom Shippey mentions this very eloquently in The Road to Middle-earth, saying, "The whole history of Middle-earth seems to show that good is attained only at vast expense, while evil recuperates almost at will."
Wow.
He then gives some great examples. You've got Thangorodrim being broken in the first age, but of course evil continued after that. He talks about Numenor being drowned, but of course Sauron makes it out of there.
Of course.
And he then goes on to say, and even if that crisis, meaning the end of the Third Age, is surmounted, it is made extremely clear that this success too will conform to the general pattern of fruitlessness. Or maybe one should say that its fruit will be bitter.
Wow. Good way to put it.
Yeah, and that's a bit like what Gandalf says later on in the last debate, when he talks about how other evils there are that'll come. He says, Sauron is himself but a servant or emissary. Yet it is not our part to master all the tides of the world,
That's right.
but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What weather they shall have is not ours to rule. That's that same concept, that there will always be evil that comes along. We can't stop all evil.
No, but we got to stop what's in front of us.
Got to stop what's in front of us. Got to do what we can.
We just talked about this a minute ago, the rings of Galadriel and Elrond losing their power and the elves fading and dwindling. You mentioned Shippey a minute ago. He also goes on to point something out along those same lines. He says, along with them, the elves, will go the Ents and the Dwarves, indeed the whole imagined world of Middle-earth, to be replaced by modernity and the domination of men. All the characters and their story, one might say, will shrink to poetic rigmaroles and misunderstood snatches in plays and ballads. Man, that is sad. And
Wow.
Thanks, Tom.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Cheer us up right there. We'll come back to him, but let's move on to the last paragraph of this section before we do.
Yeah, before I go off on a tangent about fairies turning into these little things with butterfly wings.
Please.
Because, yeah, there's this last paragraph that you read where Gandalf responds to Theoden's concern about the loss of all these things that are fair and wonderful. And
That's right.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, that could happen.
That's right. I mean, Sauron's evil cannot be completely cured. The evil things that he's done cannot be undone. And then he has this line about these being the days in which we are doomed. Now, this is, again, the context of doom here means that we're fated to live in these days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's necessarily a negative thing.
No.
It doesn't mean, this is doom. This isn't death. This isn't destruction. This is fate. This is our lot. Yeah.
This is where we are placed. This is when we are placed.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do what we have to do. Yeah.
This is the world we live in. And these are the hands we're given.
I knew they were coming. Oh, I'm never going to be able to stop hearing that song now.
Oh, man. It's been a little while since we had a Genesis reference. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, as you said, these are the days in which we are doomed to live. This is
Yeah.
our lot. And it's very Germanic. Like,
It
look,
is.
this is what we've got to deal with. Let's deal with it. Let's keep going on this journey.
Yes, this journey that we have started. We've already begun this.
Yeah.
Let's not stop now.
Let's finish it.
Yeah. And he's right, of course. I mean, people, lands, even history, they can heal, but the things caused by Sauron's evil cannot be made as if it had not been. And it, I got to tell you, it actually put me in mind of Sam when he wakes up in the field of Cormallen. He sees Gandalf and he's completely bewildered. And he says,
"Oh, yeah.
I thought you were dead, but then I thought I was dead myself. Is everything sad going to come untrue? What's happened to the world? Heartbreaking. I mean, of course it can't come untrue. Poor Sam.
It's such a sweet thing to wish for.
It is. It's so naive. It's beautifully Sam. Yeah.
It is. It's very sweet. And of course, it's completely unrealistic.
Right.
And Treebeard hinted at this same truth back in the chapter named after him when he said, songs like trees bear fruit only in their own time and their own way, and sometimes they are withered untimely.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And Shippey mentions that quote later in the section we quoted a little bit ago, adding that the collective opinion of Middle-earth is summed up in Gandalf's aphoristic, and that means pithy or concise, statement, I am Gandalf, Gandalf the White, but black is mightier still.
Whoa.
And that's a bleak statement.
Oh, you know it is. Yeah.
And as Shippey asks, why the continuing pessimistic expectations of defeat?
That's a very good question. But of course, as he often does, Shippey actually answers his own question.
Of course he does.
He goes on to explain that one of the main goals of The Lord of the Rings was, quote, to dramatize that theory of courage, which Tolkien had said in his British Academy lecture, was the great contribution to humanity of the old literature of the North. The central pillar of that theory was Ragnarok, the day when gods and men would fight evil and the giants and inevitably be defeated. Its great statement was that defeat is no refutation. The right side remains right, even if it has no ultimate hope at all. Tolkien wanted his characters in The Lord of the Rings to live up to the same high standard. He was careful, therefore, to remove easy hope from them, even to make them conscious of long-term defeat and doom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And isn't that what makes them the greatest heroes? Why we love them so much?
Yes.
Because they don't have easy hope.
No.
But they still have hope.
And this idea about defeat being no refutation is brilliant.
Yeah.
And it is exactly why we cheer for these characters, even when Theoden dies on the battlefield, spoiler. And, defeat is still no refutation of the fact that Theoden was on the right side. That's right is the right.
Yeah.
It's great. And we see this resolve, even in the face of that long-term defeat, in Gandalf's words at the end of that section, to go on with the journey we have begun, which I got to tell you, that is a Beowulfian statement right there.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm glad we pulled that out separately. I know that we just spent 15 minutes on a couple of very short paragraphs, but it
was worth it. Prancing Pony podcast treatment.
Corey will spend 3 weeks on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. So I'm going to have you pick up though, at the ride to the forge. You're going to skip a paragraph or so.
Ride to the fords.
The fords of Isen.
Yeah, not the fords of Bruinen.
Not the fords of Bruinen. The fords of Bruinen are a terrible dealership. Never go to the fords of Bruinen. Go to the fords of Isen.
Go to the fords of Isen.
That's right.
They rode now at an easy pace, and dark came down upon the plains about them. The slow moon mounted, now waxing towards the full, and in its cold silver light the swelling grasslands rose and fell like a wide gray sea. They had ridden for some 4 hours from the branching of the roads, when they drew near to the fords. Long slopes ran swiftly down to where the river spread in stony shoals between high grassy terraces. Borne upon the wind, they heard the howling of wolves. Their hearts were heavy, remembering the many men that had fallen in battle in this place. The road dipped between rising turf banks, carving its way through the terraces to the river's edge, and up again upon the further side. There were 3 lines of flat stepping stones across the stream, and between them fords for horses that went from either brink to a bare eyot in the midst. The riders looked down upon the crossings, and it seemed strange to them, for the fords had ever been a place full of the rush and chatter of water upon stones. But now they were silent. The beds of the stream were almost dry, a bare waste of shingles and grey sand. "This has become a dreary place," said Eomer.
On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. Tis
a
a dreary place.
It's only a model.
Oh, man. Well, so they leave the woods and they head towards the fords, with Legolas doing so reluctantly, by the way. I thought that was interesting. And that's in the part that we didn't read. But
That's right, yeah. And it's dusk, and they can see birds flying against the red sky. And Eomer, again, and before I picked up that passage, Eomer observes that there are carrion birds above the battlefield.
As one would expect, whenever there's a big battle, there are going to be carrion birds.
Yeah.
Well, now it gets dark. This is after you've picked up reading. The moon is out, and the text says that they'd ridden for some 4 hours from the fork in the road.
That's right, and we learned in the last episode that Scheme said they left at 3:30.
Right.
So figure half an hour, maybe an hour to get through the woods when they discover they're at that split in the road.
Right.
So probably about 8 o'clock or 8:30 by this point.
Makes sense. And as they approach the fords, they hear the howling of wolves.
Mm-hmm. But the emphasis here isn't on their fear of being attacked, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's on their heavy hearts. It's on the dreariness that they're thinking of as they hear that. It's like the soundtrack to their dreariness.
It is. Yeah, they're not thinking, oh, the wolves are going to attack. We don't read that.
Right.
The dreariness, the sorrow is coming from the fact their kinsman died here. I mean, Theoden's son died here.
Yeah, that's worth remembering. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is a very mournful place.
Yeah. And then we get a description of the fords, really vivid here. We see these lines of stones across the stream. And then there's the small eyot in the middle. And remember, an eyot is a small island.
Right, a little tiny island. But even though this is a familiar place, a place they would know, it doesn't look at all like they expected.
Mm-mm.
The water itself is silent. It's a nearly dry stream bed. And in the part we didn't read, Eomer speculates that maybe Saruman's behind this sickness, And Gandalf, of course, in his vague little "so it would seem," it's kind of the Middle-earth equivalent of "I can neither confirm nor deny."
It totally is. You're so right.
Yes, so it would seem.
I can neither confirm nor deny the rumor. So this is Saruman's doing.
He'll do that. It's not the first, and it's not the last time that he'll do this.
He does not want to give any information in this chapter,
none.
And I guess it's because he wants
them to see it for themselves.
I mean, he's already told them that there's Ents.
Well, they kind of saw them, but yeah.
Yeah, but he told them what they are, so it's not like
That's
he's trying
true.
to surprise them with that bombshell now. So
No.
I don't know.
It's just interesting. Very, very typical Gandalf. As Pippin will say, he's even more closed now than before.
Usual, yeah.
Yeah. Well, then they get to the fords themselves, and that's where I'm going to pick up. After Theoden has kind of said, we have to go this way. I mean, I get it, my son died here. And
my son died over here. I don't really want to go to this dreary place. These
Right.
carrion birds eating my men. Yeah.
Grievous is the fall of your men, but you shall see that at least the wolves of the mountains do not devour them. It is with their friends the orcs that they hold their feast. Such indeed is the friendship of their kind. Come. They rode down to the river, and as they came, the wolves ceased their howling and slunk away. Fear fell on them, seeing Gandalf in the moon and Shadowfax his horse shining like silver. The riders passed over to the islet, and glittering eyes watched them wanly from the shadows of the banks. Look, said Gandalf, friends have labored here. And they saw that in the midst of the eyot a mound was piled, ringed with stones, and set about with many spears. Here lie all the men of the mark that fell near this place, said Gandalf. Here let them rest, said Eomer, and when their spears have rotted and rusted, long still may their mounds stand and guard the fords of Isen.
Yeah. So like we said before you started reading that, the bit before the passage you read, we see that Theoden really does not want to go this way. And
No.
a big part of that is because there's so many good riders of the mark being eaten by carrion animals. At least that's his assumption.
Yeah. And part of me wonders, is this, not only is it, I don't want to see the bodies of my men, maybe a sign of lingering guilt? I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, that very well
Most
could
of these
be.
guys wouldn't have died had he been listening to Eomer instead of Wormtongue.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So just going through them and seeing all that carnage would just
Yeah.
remind him of his mistake.
Yeah, a
Absolutely.
reminder of his, failings, really,
Yeah.
of listening to Wormtongue.
That's actually a really good observation. I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's a good part of what that is.
It's certainly some pain, whether it's
Mhm.
guilt or not, maybe, but the pain of realizing I sent these men to their deaths and
I caused this.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't send.
This was not necessary, and I'm
That's
responsible
exactly
for
right.
this.
Yeah.
Because Theoden is a good leader, and he does
He
feel
is.
responsible for it.
As he should,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But Gandalf confirms, look, this is the only way we can go. But he has some good news. He says that although your men are fallen, the wolves are not eating the men. They're eating orcs.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yup, indeed. And Gandalf says this is what passes for friendship.
I love that
That's
line.
great. It's it's like no honor among thieves, no
No.
loyalty among bad guys. Yeah, I'll eat you if you die. Of course I'll eat you if you die.
Darn right. Yeah. You'll eat me if I die, so
That's
of
right.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when they get to the river itself, the wolves stop their howling and they slink away. And not because they fear the Rohirrim. They fear Gandalf on Shadowfax.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And here we get that line that we talked about before, that Shadowfax is shining like silver, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Compare that to when he was like a shadow, off into the moonlight, things like that.
Yeah. So, okay, I thought we closed the book on Shadowfax's color.
I think we have, but
I think we have, because, obviously, this is moonlight, right? I think
Right.
that's what's going on here. That's why it's shining more than usual.
bright
Doesn't-
moonlight. I think you'd mentioned
Yeah,
earlier
that's
that it's
right.
waxing towards the full now at this point.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But the wolves are watching them from the banks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're going to hang around and keep an eye on them. If any of them fall down,
They're not cowering in fear. They're getting out of the way. But
Right. That's right. But then Gandalf points out the work that's been done to protect the men who fell here. I love this. And he points out the mound, and they see that it's been ringed with stones and with spears. And then, oh man, I love Éomer's little epitaph. He's saying, may they serve the purpose in their death that they served in life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, may they continue to defend this place. I love it. Yeah.
I do too. That is a great line from Éomer, no doubt. But that is where you're going to pick up as Gandalf explains what's going on here.
That's right. And my co-host has given me another passage that starts in the middle of a sentence.
Because I'm clever that way.
Not really in the middle. I'm only skipping the first word of the sentence.
Fair.
It makes sense to skip.
You'll understand why once he
Yeah.
actually begins to read, which Sean just prompts me to get you to read.
Yep. Here beside the mound I will say this for your comfort. Many fell in the battles of the fords, but fewer than rumour made them. More were scattered than were slain. I gathered together all that I could find. Some men I sent with Grimbold of Westfold to join Erkenbrand. Some I set to make this burial. They have now followed your marshal, Elfhelm. I sent him with many riders to Edoras. Saruman I knew had dispatched his full strength against you, and his servants had turned aside from all other errands and gone to Helm's Deep. The land seemed empty of enemies, yet I feared that wolf riders and plunderers might ride none the less to Meduseld, while it was undefended. But now I think you need not fear. You will find your house to welcome your return. And glad shall I be to see it again, said Theoden. Though brief now, I doubt not shall be my abiding there. With that, the company said farewell to the island and the mound, and passed over the river and climbed the further bank. Then they rode on, glad to have left the mournful fords.
Mournful indeed, no doubt.
Yeah.
So Theoden, in the part that I did have you skip, did ask Gandalf, were you behind this? And Gandalf admits he was, along with others, and he really points out that it was Shadowfax's speed that really helped him get this done. But
Yeah. And then he gives some more good news, right? Not only are the men not being eaten by the wolves, which is good, but
Yeah.
hey, look, far fewer died here than we previously thought.
That's right. Yeah, they were scattered. And I was able to gather many of them. And I sent some of them with Grimbold to join Erkenbrand. You've already seen them. They came and rescued you at Helm's Deep.
Right.
And then I sent another group to join Elfhelm to go ride to Edoras to defend your home.
Right. But first, that group made this mound for the dead
Yeah.
riders. So-
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And then Gandalf explains a little bit of his reasoning, right?
Mhm.
He knew that Saruman had sent out his full force.
Uh-huh.
But then he was also concerned that there might still be some stragglers out there going to plunder an undefended capital.
Why not? I mean, that would be a great place to plunder, There'd be a
Yeah,
lot of
because
wealth
they're
there.
going to think that Théoden has ridden out with his full force. And so there's
Right.
Meduseld just
Mhm.
waiting,
Undefended.
ripe for the picking. Yeah.
That's right. So Gandalf's able to say, look, your house is going to be there to welcome you. And
Mm-hmm.
Théoden's super pleased to see it, but he knows he won't be there long. And that makes me think back just a little while ago when Aragorn said, not west, but east, our doom awaits us.
That's right. Quick pit stop, and then we're riding again.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to stop in there and gather their riders and head out.
That's right. And then as they leave the fords behind, those wolves, they come back, and they're howling again.
That's what they do, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you've got the next reading, and we're actually going to skip a few sentences here. Pick up about midway through the next paragraph, yeah.
Then they halted, ending their night's journey, for the king was weary. They were come to the feet of the misty mountains, and the long arms of Nan Curunir stretched down to meet them. Dark lay the vale before them, for the moon had passed into the west, and its light was hidden by the hills. But out of the deep shadow of the dale rose a vast spire of smoke and vapor. As it mounted, it caught the rays of the sinking moon, and spread in shimmering billows, black and silver, over the starry sky. What do you think of that, Gandalf? Asked Aragorn. One would say that all the Wizard's Vale was burning. There is ever a fume above that valley in these days, said Éomer. But I have never seen aught like this before. These are steams rather than smokes. Saruman is brewing some devilry to greet us. Maybe he is boiling all the waters of Isen, and that is why the river runs dry. Maybe he is, said Gandalf. Tomorrow we shall learn what he is doing. Now let us rest for a while, if we can. They camped beside the bed of the Isen River. It was still silent and empty. Some of them slept a little, but late in the night the watchman cried out, and all awoke. The moon was gone. Stars were shining above, but over the ground there crept a darkness blacker than the night. On both sides of the river it rolled towards them, going northward. Stay where you are, said Gandalf. Draw no weapons. Wait, and it will pass you by. A mist gathered about them. Above them a few stars still glimmered faintly, but on either side there arose walls of impenetrable gloom. They were in a narrow lane between moving towers of shadow. Voices they heard, whisperings and groanings, and an endless rustling sigh. The earth shook under them. Long it seemed to them that they sat and were afraid, but at last the darkness and the rumor passed and vanished between the mountain's arms.
Man. I want to get back to that subtly terrifying passage in a moment.
Oh, we will. That little paragraph is really scary, but yes.
But first, in the passage you skipped, we get a really lengthy description of their ride from the ford to Isengard along this ancient highway that's pretty much following the river.
Yeah. And the gates of Isengard are described as being in the western part of the valley of Nan Curunir, 16 miles, which is 26 kilometers from the opening of the valley.
That's right. And they're following the road, but they're not actually riding on the road.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And the reason for that is because the grass was just better for riding. Ground was firm and level and had the short springing turf.
Right, yeah. It's easier on horses than a gravel road for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So then midnight comes, and by this point they've covered 5 leagues, which is 15 miles or 25 kilometers, in about 3 or 4 hours.
Right. And that's where you picked up with the king being tired, so they're stopping to rest.
Yeah, when the king's tired, everybody stops.
Oh, well, yeah, that's why he's the king.
That's right. It's good to be king.
That's right. Good to be the king.
That's right. So they're now at the feet of the mountains and the opening of the valley. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, notice, this is just like a little word nerd observation here.
That's why you're here, man.
That's what I do. As they ride down the highway, Tolkien uses just about like every word for valley he can think of. You know?
You're right, he does, huh?
He even dips into the Romance languages a little bit here. So he calls it a valley, and then he calls it a vale. And both of those words are from French and Latin.
Right.
And then soon after that, he calls it a dale, which is the native Germanic word for it.
Right.
The one word that's related to dale that he doesn't use here is Dell, which is a good thing, because if he did, then this would be the highway to Dell.
Oh, no. They're on the highway to Dell. You know you're going to make me sing that.
That's what I did it for.
Highway to
That's the
Dell.
whole reason I did. I was just fishing for an AC/DC karaoke moment from you.
Well, you're not going to have to stretch too hard to get me to do that. I'm going to enjoy that. That is too funny.
I'm sorry, not sorry for that bad pun.
I didn't think you were. Well, then we get the vast spire of smoke that Aragorn notices. This is the one that, if you go back to our Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth, that he then in the future tells Pippin about it. Pippin's like, oh yeah, no, that was this. And
right.
so he asks Gandalf about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Éomer jumps in here and says, look, there's always something over the valley here, but this is different from what we're used to seeing. This isn't smoke. This seems more like steam.
Yeah.
And so Éomer concludes that Saruman must be brewing some devilry for them.
That's right. And Gandalf, again, his classic neither confirm nor deny. Let's just rest instead. I love that. Well, maybe he is.
I'm not telling you anything.
I know. Thanks, helpful Gandalf.
So they set up camp and they get some sleep. But...
oh, yeah, here we go.
This is not good. This is not what you want to see when you're trying to sleep outside. Darkness blacker than the night comes towards them going north.
This is really, really bad. Darkness blacker than the night is never a good thing. But
no.
Gandalf, clearly aware, issues a very firm order. Stay where you are, do not draw your weapons, and just wait.
Yeah.
Okay, easier said than done, but all right.
We'll try.
And that's when the Huorns pass by. Now, okay, we still don't know that's what they're called. We'll learn that in the next chapter, but they pass by, and boy, is their passing a terrifying event.
The description of it is just absolutely chilling.
I
mean, first you've got this gathering mist with just a few stars that you can see above, but then these walls of impenetrable gloom on either side.
Well, that actually recalls a line from their first pass through this wood as they're going through Gimli and Legolas and the rest. They look to the sides, and it's impenetrable shadows.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's a clue. At least it's supposed to tell us, if we've been paying attention, that this is that same wood.
This is that same wood. And then, as if that wasn't terrifying enough, now they hear voices.
Yeah.
Whispering, groaning, and an endless rustling sigh.
Oh. Yeah, it's one thing to have impenetrable shadows in the forest that you're riding through.
Yeah.
When the forest is stationary.
But when you're stationary and the wood is passing by you,
that's different.
And it's like darker than dark.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a little terrifying. And then
that's creepy.
And then to make things a little bit more scary, because, hey, why not just add to this? The earth is shaking beneath them. It's like an earthquake.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I feel the earth move under my feet.
Nicely done.
Old school right there. Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, so the earth is shaking beneath them. Now, I've lived in California all my life. I know you were out here for a little while. Did you experience a good solid earthquake when you were here?
No. I experienced one little tremor, and I was on the third floor of an office building.
And you were on the ground begging for mercy, crying?
Pretty much, yeah. And it was just like for like a couple of seconds, I was like, ooh, that was weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I've been here all my life, and of course, I've experienced a number of them, including some pretty big ones. And I got to tell you, the first thing you think of is, okay, we're having an earthquake. How long is this one going to last?
Right.
And here, of course, it's an entire forest going by, so it's probably got to take a few minutes. It's got to be a really terrifying experience. This is not fun stuff. But eventually it does pass, and it does disappear, vanish between the mountain's arms. And that is exactly where I'm going to have you pick up, where it transports us back to another location.
All right. Away south upon the Hornberg, in the middle night, men heard a great noise, as a wind in the valley. And the ground trembled, and all were afraid, and no one ventured to go forth. But in the morning they went out, and were amazed, for the slain orcs were gone, and the trees also. Far down into the valley of the deep, the grass was crushed and trampled brown, as if giant herdsmen had pastured great droves of cattle there. But a mile below the dike, a huge pit had been delved in the earth, and over it stones were piled into a hill. Men believed that the orcs whom they had slain were buried there, but whether those who had fled into the wood were with them, none could say, for no man ever set foot upon that hill. The Death Down it was afterwards called, and no grass would grow there. But the strange trees were never seen in Deeping Combe again. They had returned at night, and had gone far away to the dark dales of Fangorn. Thus they were revenged upon the orcs.
Yes, they were.
Indeed.
I do love this. Tolkien doesn't do this very often, but he flashes back to a different location. Just briefly, a single paragraph broken out from the rest of the text. We're back to the Hornburg.
That's true, yeah.
And men hear a sound like a wind and also experience this tremor. So again, we're trying to connect. He's connecting these two incidents. Yeah.
It reminds me of the beginning of the chapter A Knife in the Dark back in book 1, right? Fear, fire, foes awake, because we've got the hobbits and Aragorn are sleeping in Bree, and then we cut away to Buckland for a moment and we see what's going on there. It's one of the few times that I can think of where this happens like this. I mean, obviously there's lots of interlacing, but
it's usually from chapter to chapter, not within.
From chapter to chapter, as opposed to going to another location for just a paragraph and then coming back.
That's pretty cool stuff, though. I like it. And I like the way he connects these two incidents. I mean, the wind, the sounds, the whisperings, groanings, endless sigh. Okay, they get a sound like a wind. And then they also experience tremors. So,
yeah. Yep. And so wisely, nobody leaves the house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Until morning.
I'm in a great big stone fortress, probably the safest place I can be.
I'm not going to go outside when I hear this weird wind and experience an earthquake.
No.
But then they come out in the morning and they see the trees are gone.
And so are the orcs.
That's right. Yeah. So those are the signs that the Huorns have been here too.
Yeah. And we get another herding reference, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's another sign that these herdsmen have been here.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And they're herd. Yeah.
And they're herd. You're right. And now there's a huge pit with stones piled into a hill, which possibly, but not certainly, nobody knows for sure, possibly the burial place of the orcs.
Yeah, nobody wants to find out, I guess.
Nope.
And it's called the Death Down because no grass grows there. And then we get that final little bit about the strange trees being revenged upon the orcs. Oh, yeah.
That is so satisfying.
Isn't it?
When you think about what the orcs have been doing to Fangorn Forest.
Yeah.
And you're reminded that this was revenge.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm thinking of the rowan trees that Quickbeam is talking to Merry and Pippin about, and he's mourning the loss of them.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. All of these trees have now been revenged. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and pick up right there and read the next couple of paragraphs?
Okay. The king and his company slept no more that night, but they saw and heard no other strange thing, save one. The voice of the river beside them suddenly awoke. There was a rush of water hurrying down among the stones, and when it had passed, the Isen flowed and bubbled in its bed again, as it had ever done. At dawn they made ready to go on. The light came, gray and pale, and they did not see the rising of the sun. The air above was heavy with fog, and a reek lay on the land about them. They went slowly, riding now upon the highway. It was broad and hard and well tended. Dimly, through the mists, they could descry the long arm of the mountains rising on their left. They had passed into Nan Curunir, the Wizard's Vale. That was a sheltered valley, open only to the south. Once it had been fair and green, and through it the Isen flowed, already deep and strong before it found the plains, for it was fed by many springs and lesser streams among the rain-washed hills, and all about it there had lain a pleasant, fertile land. It was not so now. Yeah.
So, we go back to the king and his company, and now they're awake.
Oh, yeah. They're wide awake.
They're not going back to sleep anytime soon. That's
No. Big forest of moving trees goes tromping by. You're probably awake for the rest of the morning. Yeah. So now the river comes back to life, though. We get the rush of water first, and then the regular flow as if there had never been a problem.
That's right. Yeah. And then they prepare to leave at dawn, but they couldn't see the sun, could they? They had this heavy fog and reek, and this is reek as a noun meaning fog or vapor.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with what Gimli ate for dinner last night.
Right.
So they're back on this well-maintained highway, and they're heading into the valley, which, I love this description, right? It'd been fair and green, and the river flowed through it. There were all these springs and streams, and pleasant and fertile, and it was not so now. Yeah.
That sentence lands like a rock.
Boy, it does.
It was not so now.
Yeah, and that's exactly where you're going to pick up as they near Isengard.
Beneath the walls of Isengard, there still were acres tilled by the slaves of Saruman, but most of the valley had become a wilderness of weeds and thorns. Brambles trailed upon the ground, or clambering over bush and bank made shaggy caves where small beasts housed. No trees grew there, but among the rank grasses could still be seen the burned and axe-hewn stumps of ancient groves. It was a sad country, silent now but for the stony noise of quick waters. Smokes and steams drifted in sullen clouds and lurked in the hollows. The riders did not speak. Many doubted in their hearts, wondering to what dismal end their journey led. After they had ridden for some miles, the highway became a wide street, paved with great flat stones, squared and laid with skill. No blade of grass was seen in any joint. Deep gutters, filled with trickling water, ran down on either side. Suddenly, a tall pillar loomed up before them. It was black, and set upon it was a great stone, carved and painted in the likeness of a long white hand. Its finger pointed north. Not far now, they knew that the gates of Isengard must stand, and their hearts were heavy, but their eyes could not pierce the mists ahead.
Wow. So we begin to see the changes to the land that make it was not so now, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still some farmland near the walls of the fortress.
Yeah.
Tilled by slaves. I think
Yeah,
it's worth pointing out.
that's charming, right?
Yeah. But the valley itself is a mess. I mean, it's filled with weeds, thorns, brambles.
Right, no trees,
Right.
but ominously groves of stumps. Oh, that's
Depressing.
Yeah, I don't think Fangorn's going to be a big fan of that.
No, not one bit. And the change in the country is palpable, isn't it? I mean, it's actually having an effect on the riders as they make their journey.
Oh, yeah. They're sad, they're silent, they're sullen, and there's the smokes and steams. Just in case you're missing the point, there's a lot of alliteration there.
There is. And you know what? As you said it just now, I realized all those sibilants remind me of the sound of the hissing steam.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to. Smokes and steams drifted in sullen clouds. Yeah.
You hear that hiss. That's amazing.
Sad country, silent, but for the stony noise. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it causes them to doubt and to fear this dismal end. Oh, man. I wonder if there's a little bit that's supernatural here.
Like some actual, like Saruman
slowing down field. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of spiritual effect, that spiritual slowing down that the three hunters felt.
The girdle of Melian, but not quite. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that makes, it very well could be. That's an interesting thought.
I wonder. I mean, that doubt, that's exactly what Saruman would want them to do. It'd be doubt.
That's true. Yeah.
As we'll see when he gets to talk in a couple more chapters.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Oh, yeah, you can't wait. I still have to figure out what to do with a Saruman voice.
I know, right? Yeah, same here. But yeah, we're getting really close now. And that well-maintained highway becomes something else. It becomes a wide, paved street with, this is a powerful description to me, these large, square, flat stones.
Yeah.
Very tightly jointed, complete with gutters. And if you remember our 2020 Tolkien Reading Day episode on nature versus industry, this to me is a perfect example of that conflict. You've got Saruman has laid these very carefully carved stones. There's no grass growing up. This is the conquest of nature by Saruman's industry.
That's right.
Frankly, I wish I could get my landscapers to lay stones that tightly.
I mean, you can't even pour concrete that tightly out here.
Right.
Life finds a way.
Indeed it does.
And then there's a signpost up ahead.
Consider if you will.
That's right.
A white hand pointing north towards a scary tower.
You got to take a drag on your cigarette first.
I do. I don't have one. Sorry.
Man, I'm telling you, when I grew up, I must have thought everybody smoked because I used to watch Twilight Zone. There's Rod Serling, like 3 packs in a single episode.
Yep. Man. But yeah, there literally is a signpost.
Yeah.
Such a Sarumanian thing to do. Like,
isn't it? Yeah.
This way to my place.
You might be a fallen Maya. There's your sign.
There's your sign. So yeah, it's black with an actual carved white hand pointing north, because this guy's not a megalomaniac or anything.
Not at all. He's not slightly egotistical. He's not slightly, self-aggrandizing. No, not at all.
And as you said, the effect of all of this is to make the riders' hearts heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy as they approach Isengard.
So unconfirmed sources say that the finger on that great stone hand wasn't pointing to Orthanc. It was pointing to Bartleman's bag.
This way to the mailbag.
Almost as intimidating, really.
Almost, yeah.
But once we've had a look at tonight's questions, the talk still continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our fantastic listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And be sure to follow the page and join the group. The page is a great way for us to keep you up to date on the latest happenings. It's a good way to hear from us, but the group gives you a great chance to discuss Tolkien and our episodes with your fellow listeners.
That's right. And of course, we also have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/prancingponypod. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle at prancingponypod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us, and please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content, episode postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with me and Sean, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the fellowship of the podcast. Now, let's see what messages Barnabas brought us. Sean, what do we have?
Well, last episode, Gimli waxed poetic about the glittering caves. So we brought in some great questions about dwarves.
Fair enough.
Well, we've actually got a lot more great questions about dwarves in the bag, so we've brought a few more of those here today. And I'll start with one from Matt in Sheffield over in the UK, who asked us, how do you think the main stories from the Legendarium would have turned out if Aule either never created the dwarves or destroyed them after Iluvatar discovered them? One aspect I've thought about, Matt says, is that perhaps if Iluvatar forced Aule to destroy his creation, then perhaps Aule might have taken a different path himself.
Ooh.
His record of apprentices turning out bad isn't great, so perhaps he could have been pushed to the dark side himself.
Fair.
Wow. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I think as I look at that, though, there are really two questions in there. First is the question of what would have happened to Aule if Iluvatar had forced him to destroy his creation. Could Aule have reacted by rebelling further, going down the road that his former apprentices, Sauron and Saruman, did? Well, maybe, but I actually have to say it doesn't seem likely. And I want to take a look at that passage in chapter 2 of the Silmarillion to really bring us up to speed there. And in the very hour that Aule's work was complete, and he was pleased and began to instruct the dwarves in the speech that he had devised for them, Iluvatar spoke to him, and Aule heard his voice and was silent. And the voice of Iluvatar said to him, "Why hast thou done this? Why dost thou attempt a thing which thou knowest is beyond thy power and thy authority? For thou hast from me as a gift thy own being only, and no more, and therefore the creatures of thy hand and mind can live only by that being, moving when thou thinkest to move them, and if thy thought be elsewhere, standing idle. Is that thy desire?" Then Aule answered, "I did not desire such lordship. I desired things other than I am, to love and to teach them, so that they too might perceive the beauty of Ea, which thou hast caused to be. For it seemed to me that there is great room in Arda for many things that might rejoice in it, yet it is for the most part empty still and dumb. And in my impatience I have fallen into folly. Yet the making of things is in my heart for my own making by thee, and the child of little understanding that makes a play of the deeds of his father may do so without thought of mockery, but because he is the son of his father. But what shall I do now, so that thou be not angry with me forever? As a child to his father I offer to thee these things, the work of the hands which thou hast made. Do with them what thou wilt. But should I not rather destroy the work of my presumption?" Oh, man.
Well done.
I could read that over and over again. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really great passage, and it's been far too long since we talked about it. And hearing you read it again just now and thinking about this question, there are three things that I noticed there.
Yeah.
First of all, we see that Aule heard Iluvatar's voice and was silent.
Mm.
That, to me, that's the action of a child who knows he's done something wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've both been there.
Daddy's talking. I need to listen.
Yeah.
And we've been on both sides of that, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on the child side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Second thing I notice is that Aule asks what he can do so that Iluvatar will no longer be angry with him.
Yeah.
He wants to make amends. He wants to show contrition. He wants to.
That's right.
Wants to repent.
Yes.
And then Aule himself, the third thing, is that Aule himself came up with the idea of destroying the work of his
Yes.
presumption. It wasn't Iluvatar's idea.
Mm-hmm.
So Aule is already showing remorse and regret, and I would say contrition,
Yeah,
before he raises his hammer.
I agree wholeheartedly. We talked long ago, back in season 1, about the fact that it is Aule's contrition in the face of his mistake that makes him worthy of Iluvatar's forgiveness. If he had gone ahead with destroying the dwarves, that is, if Aule had gone ahead,
Mhm.
that feeling of contrition would still be there. Aule knows he's done something wrong, and he wants to, as you mentioned, make amends. That alone, I would think, would keep him from going down the path of becoming another Melkor. And to that end, I want to bring in another line from Aina Lindale. Then the Ainur were afraid, and they did not yet comprehend the words that were said to them. This is after Iluvatar had, after the third theme, and Iluvatar had gotten really angry.
Basically, when Melkor gets his talking to from Daddy.
Melkor gets the smackdown, right?
Yeah.
And Melkor was filled with shame, of which came secret anger.
Mm.
And similarly, even earlier in that, right? Even after the first theme, the first discord, I should say, the discord after Iluvatar stands up, he lifts his left hand, right? He stands up, and the new theme begins, and then the discord rises and contends with it.
Right.
Then Iluvatar stands up again and lifts up his right hand, and yet again, the music keeps going. So what we see with Melkor is a continual rebellion. He's called out, and he keeps doing it. Whereas when Aule's called out, the first thing he does is become contrite immediately.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you said, I think we talked about this, Melkor just kind of keeps doubling down, doesn't he? He leans further into his rebellion each time he's called on it.
That's
and
right.
That's exactly the opposite of what Aule does here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For him, the shame of being caught leads to repentance and not anger. Yeah.
Right. And I think related to this is the reason for the rebellion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Melkor is rebelling out of pride and an attempt to dominate the music, to make it his own.
Right.
That's not what's motivating Aule here. Aule, as you read, he's motivated by a desire to add to the beauty of the creation and to create someone else to appreciate that beauty. And in part, he's doing it in, I would say, loving imitation of Iluvatar. He's imitating his father, but in a loving way. It's not an attempt to take power from Iluvatar. He's not trying to place himself above Iluvatar. He's a child who wants to be like his dad.
Yeah.
And it is a childish mistake that we see here. It's not open rebellion that we see from Melkor.
No.
And I think that also should keep him from becoming another Melkor.
That's a good point. You're right.
And yes, Matt makes a really good point. I know that 2 of Aule's apprentices went down the road into Dark Lordness, and we can also count Feanor in that.
I was going to say, we could add a third apprentice that went towards that road. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're talking about an elf and Maiar here. We're not talking about Valar here. And at least in the case of Sauron, we're corrupted by Melkor, not rebelling entirely of their own volition and in their own independence, so to speak. I mean, Saruman, of course, wasn't even corrupted by Melkor. He was just corrupted by the mere study of Sauron.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All he did was listen to Sauron's greatest hits and think, I want to do that.
You're right.
But Aule is different. Aule is Melkor's peer.
Yeah.
And should know better.
A Vala should know better.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think also the fact that he is a Vala and not... See, okay, Melkor persuaded other Ainur, but he didn't persuade any of the other Valar.
Right.
And that's important. I think it's easy for somebody like Sauron or the Balrogs or even Ungoliant, if we want to go into that train of thought, to fall under the corruption of Melkor and the persuasion of Melkor. It would have been very, very difficult.
Because they're lesser beings.
Right, exactly. They are lesser beings, yeah. So for somebody like Aule to fall into that trap, I think we would have seen from the very beginning the same things in him that we saw in Melkor that caused his fall, right? The sins of Melkor, everything like pride and the self-isolation and the desire to dominate, all of those things. And without those, I think we can safely say that wasn't the danger for Aule.
That's a very good point. And as we know, that is the template for evil in the Legendarium. And we don't see any of those traits in Aule.
No.
Even desire to dominate. That's not why Aule is creating the dwarves. He doesn't want to lord it over the dwarves. He just wants to have beings to teach language to and teach appreciation of Ea.
Yeah.
It's not domination at all.
No, I mean, and he's the opposite of that, right? We learned that he wants to create things and then let them go. He rejoices in giving away his work, whereas other crafters, including Feanor, hoard their stuff.
They want to hoard. They name it unto themselves. I name this unto myself and that unto
I name this unto myself and name that unto myself. Man, it's been a while since we pulled that one out.
It has, I know.
That was great. That was great stuff.
So, yeah. No, I think that's all spot on. All right. Well, what about the other question that's here in Matt's email to us? What would be different about the Middle-earth legendarium if the fathers of the dwarves were destroyed and they never awoke?
Yeah. Why, no dwarves at all. If Allah had never created them or had destroyed them. Honestly, the history of Middle-earth would be an incredibly different thing if we didn't have the dwarves. Even as early as the First Age, Middle-earth would be a different place. We not only would not have Belagost and Nogrod, but there's also no Menegroth or Nargothrond.
That's right, because the dwarves made those places, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And then let's not forget Narsil and Angrist were both forged by a dwarf, Telkar, in the First Age. So we wouldn't have those weapons either. We wouldn't have Turin's dragon helm. In fact, Turin's story in general would be very different if not for the time that he spends with Mime. And then I got to say, probably the biggest thing that comes to my mind, there's no Nauglamir for Hurin to find in Nargothrond, which, well, he wouldn't have been in Nargothrond because there wouldn't have been a Nargothrond.
Right.
So Thingol's death becomes a totally different story if he's ever killed because he was killed by dwarves.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
he might have just kept on being
living
king
forever.
Of wherever he was in Doriath, not Menegroth, but somewhere.
Right. King
or maybe
of
he digs his own,
King of the 17 caves, because that's all I can dig.
Right.
I can't dig the 1,000 caves. Yeah.
Right.
But, without the participation of the dwarves, honestly, I got to say it's questionable if Beren ever even gets the Silmaril from Morgoth, because without Angrist,
right,
I don't think he's able to pry one out. And
right,
even if he did, now we have to question whether Thingol would ever have parted with the Silmaril once he got it, because we know how much he came to desire it. So,
yeah,
wow. And then if you follow that logic, now it becomes questionable whether even Elwing or Eärendil ever get the Silmaril to ask for the pardon of the Valar.
I'd even go one further than that. Is Elwing even born?
Wow. Yeah. Well, we're playing It's a Wonderful Life here, aren't we?
We really are. I mean, without Angrist, I can see Beren and Luthien either meeting a nasty end when Morgoth wakes up, or best case scenario, they come back to Thingol empty-handed.
With both hands, though.
With both hands, that's true. But they're not getting the whole Iron Crown out of there.
No.
So they come back to Thingol with no Silmaril, and so he doesn't allow them to get married.
Right.
Or, let's face it, they would probably go get married in secret somewhere. I don't think Luthien is going to listen to that. But still, then there's no legitimate line of succession through their son Dior down to Elwing.
That's a good point.
I mean, for that matter, is Eärendil even born?
Oh, man. Blasphemy.
I know. It's like, I don't want to read that story.
No.
But think about it. The dragon helm was worn by Galdor, who wore his father. And that was a pretty big morale booster in the battlefield. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying it's necessarily the difference between life and death for Galdor, but he wasn't wearing it when he died.
Good point.
And it certainly seems like it helped him through lots of victories. So you got to wonder if without the power of the dragon helm, like how great does the House of Hador even become?
Wow.
Maybe it does, but we just don't really know.
No, you're right.
Does Huor ever get born? Is Tuor ever born? Do they ever forge that bond with Gondolin, with Huor and Hurin coming to Gondolin that brings Tuor there later?
Man. Wow. Who knows if Middle-earth ever even makes it out of the First Age, honestly.
I mean, without Elwing and Eärendil, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, I don't think it does. But even if they did, the Second Age Wars with Sauron, well, they play out very differently without the help of the Dwarves of Moria. Right there, the finest warriors to pit against the orcs, as we read.
Yeah.
Granted, now Tolkien would probably have come up with another way to finish that story since he did write several versions of
it. Yes, he did. And you can read all of them in Unfinished Tales, the history of Galadriel and Celeborn. But then once we get to the Third Age, I mean, especially the main Third Age stories would be very different with no
non-existent different.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, there's no there and back again for Bilbo because he's never going to leave the Shire.
No.
So he never gets rich. He's never going to adopt Frodo. Smaug would never be driven out of Erebor.
What's Erebor? There are no dwarves.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, Smaug is probably just roaming the north, pillaging kingdoms for centuries because he can't find a treasure that's big enough to satisfy him and settle down with.
Settle down with. I'm just thinking now he's like Dragon Tinder. He's, you're swiping on treasures.
You
That
need to
treasure
find a
doesn't look
nice
good enough.
hoard to settle down with.
I'm sorry.
That's HOARD.
Oh, man. Yeah. Come on, Smaug. Got to settle down. But here's the thing. Of course, if Bilbo doesn't go off with the dwarves, because there are no dwarves, he never finds the One Ring, which means that as Sauron gains power, I mean, granted, maybe the White Council still drives him out of Dol Guldur at least.
Yeah, maybe so.
As he gains power, he's going to send the ring wraiths out to look for it around the Gladden Fields. And after interviewing a whole bunch of goblins, they start to hear rumors about that invisible hissing terror that lives under the Misty Mountains. They go find Gollum, kill him, and take back the One Ring.
Yep,
so
pretty much.
Bad things, yeah. And with the help of Smaug and Durin's Bane, who also wouldn't be called Durin's Bane because he never settles in Moria.
Because what's Moria?
So he's still going by his original name of, I don't know, let's call him Bob Alrog. And he teams up with Sauron and the dragon to completely destroy Middle-earth. Game over.
Yeah.
Game over, man. Game over.
Game over, man. And the last scene of this horrible alternative version of Lord of the Rings, the rise and total domination of the Lord of the Rings. The last scene, I imagine, is a picnic in the Shire where some moderately wealthy but obscure hobbit named Frodo Baggins is sitting on the grass with his wife and his 4 hobbit children, looking up at the sky and saying, well, what's that? As a dragon fireball comes down and then just burninates Brandy Hall.
Trogdor! Man.
Yep. Right there.
I miss Trogdor. Yeah. So yeah, they're important.
Very important. Yeah. The dwarves really do have an impact on the whole legendarium, even when they're not visibly a part of the story.
Mm-hmm. True.
They're there. Whether it's the stuff that they've made, or the kingdoms that they've founded, the places that they've...
There's no mithril coat. Frodo gets killed by the troll, even if the story
even
does
if
get
he
that
does
far.
manage to get out of the house. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what a mess.
Yeah, I mean, their impact on the legendarium is really just immeasurable. I mean, I think we've probably only scratched the surface of all the things dwarves do.
I think you're right.
I think the point was just to show like all the things that you don't think of the dwarves doing,
Mm-hmm.
And Middle-earth is a totally different place if the dwarves never existed.
Yeah, pretty much ends in the First Age, I think.
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
No Elwing, no Silmaril.
Yeah, no Silmaril, and the Valar don't come over and rescue you from Morgoth, and Morgoth's in charge of everything.
That's right.
So Sauron's still just a lieutenant someplace. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. There's a silver lining there.
There's silver lining, unless you're Sauron.
True.
Well, we do have one more dwarf-related question. Alan R. asks, in The Fellowship of the Ring, Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, the Fellowship find the Book of Mazarbul recording the 5-ish years Balin's colony had control of Moria. It's an amazing tool that builds up tension, Alan says, and tees up the attack on the Fellowship by the Orc band. However, before that assault, Gandalf asks Gimli to take it back to Dine if you get a chance. The following text doesn't explicitly say Gimli followed this order, but I assume he did. My question then is if this book ever turns up in any of the other works by the professor. I can't recall any mention, but I thought I'd check with your most excellent and admirable selves, which simply says he misaddressed the question to somebody else.
Sorry, Alan. You've come to the wrong guys.
We appreciate it, though.
We do. And it is a good question because Alan R. is right. It's never mentioned again after this moment.
Ever.
After which chaos breaks out in Moria. So it really is hard to say for sure whether Gimli ever gets that book out of Moria.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that Tolkien intended for the book to make it out because he actually made a few facsimiles of it that he meant to include in the published Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Think about the inscription on Balin's tomb and the doors of Durin where we actually get these pictures. He actually intended to include some pictures of the Book of Mazarbul. Mm-hmm. He made 3 facsimiles of runic pages and basically translated the Westron into English.
Yep.
And then he ripped them up, he burned them, he put bloodstains on them. Fake bloodstains, of course.
How do we know?
I hope fake bloodstains. I know.
Those paper cuts, man, they're nasty.
That's true. But he put all the stuff on them so that they would look like they'd just been through, a Balrog attack, an orc attack, and then more, But he did such a good job making these things look realistic that they ended up being too expensive to reproduce in the published book.
Right.
So Alan and Unwin basically told them, you can redraw these as line drawings or you can get rid of them. So, of course, the professor decided to get rid of them.
That's right.
Now, the pages are reproduced in Pictures by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I don't have, but you have that one, don't you, Alan?
That's correct. I do.
Yeah. And they're also included in The Art of the Lord of the Rings, edited by Hammond and Skull. There are figures 55 through 63 in that book, if you have that. But my point in all of this is that Tolkien wanted his readers to be able to see the pages, which means that he must have thought that in universe, those pages somehow survived the war and made it into some scribe's hand later on for the Red Book.
Right.
The only question is how? How did Gimli manage to get them out? How did Gimli manage to carry them with him through all of his adventures?
Well, our heroes must have packs that they carry, right? They have food,
Yeah,
water
that's true.
skins. I mean, Sam carries his cooking stuff all the way into Mordor before he finally throws it into a gully there.
That's true. Yeah.
Water skins, pipes. I mean, they've got to have a place to carry it all.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a mark of Tolkien's writing style, right? He doesn't talk about those kinds of details, just like he famously doesn't talk about Aragorn's tax policy. But
That's right. Yeah.
Gimli's got to have a place to carry all that stuff. But
That's true.
the interesting thing though is that means that the pack with the book in it made the cut when Aragorn said, "Leave all that can be spared behind," when they left Parthgallen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's not too surprising, right? I
I was going to say, yeah, that's not too surprising. I mean,
it's
this
the
is an
only
important
surviving
book.
record of the lost dwarf colony of Moria. It's not really something that can be spared any more than Galadriel's hair, even if it, probably weighs a little bit more.
Yeah, it probably weighs quite a bit more.
Yeah.
I bet he probably kept the hair pressed in the book just to keep it safe.
Maybe.
That was the reason he kept it, not for the history or anything.
That's
Just,
right.
I need this to keep the hair safe.
It's where Galadriel's hair is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, you mentioned the books that that's available in. There are also some editions of The Lord of the Rings that have that reproduced in there now.
Oh, okay.
I just honestly can't remember which ones. So I'll try to dig that up and maybe put that in the show notes. If that isn't there, then just don't worry about it. You'll be able to find them. I know for sure that the deluxe edition that came in the slipcase probably about 10, 15 years ago, that's part of that big set, like all of them have that cloth slipcase and cloth cover.
Oh, yeah.
And the Lord of the Rings one has like a hole in the slipcase that you can see to the book itself.
That's right, yeah.
That copy of it has the pages from the Book of Mazarbul. I'm just not sure which
Okay.
other ones do.
Very cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please, though, be sure to join us again next week when we meet up with some very dear friends.
And if you're not sure who we're talking about, here's a hint. They've just eaten, one of them is napping, and the other one's smoking a pipe.
Yeah, that's obvious.
But folks, as always, we want to take a moment to thank some truly important people, our patrons at the Cure-Dance contribution tier. I'll start with Demay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, and Kathy from North Carolina.
And then we have Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Nick from Wisconsin, Paul from the UK, and Ryan from Alaska. Thank you all so very much for your support. And we also want to thank the team that helps make our show better. That includes our research assistants, as well as our barliman, Becca Davis, our producer, Jordan Rennells, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, and website guru, Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all so much. Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your vacation selfies from non-Kuranir to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Oh, those will be nice.
Yeah, standing in front of that nice little monument sign.
Yeah, the steam rising around you and everything.
Yeah, with the sickly vapors and
Yeah. And the big hand with the finger. And the sign.
Not that finger. Oh, yeah.
Well, Barliman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do
Yeah.
get a lot of mail. So be patient. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.